Deputy Chambers, and again thank you for addressing it. As I indicated, I was going to at the end, but it was good that we could address it together. Senator Niall Donnghaile, please.
And thank you, Commissioner, and to your colleagues as well. Commissioner, a number of committee colleagues have raised the concerns about the emergence of a hard border, and certainly from my own perspective at previous meetings and my party's perspective we've been very clear in regards to that. But I do want to raise with you something that you'll be familiar with, and that's the concern that there is an emergence of a hard border of sorts for people who are travelling by bus across the border at present. You'll have received correspondence from the Committee for the Administration of Justice in the North and the Irish Council for Civil Liberties here in the South in regards to their concerns about the racial profiling of people who are travelling across the border on public transport. Now I'm wondering, and I have probably 3 questions, Commissioner, which I'll ask in bulk to save time. I'm wondering in the first instance, and I've asked this before of your predecessors, but has there been a strategic policy decision by Garda leadership to increase checks along the border, checks of passports on public transportation? Under what legislation are these checks taking place? Because if you haven't seen the correspondence yet from ICCL or the CAJ, they will question the legality of some of these checks. And I'm wondering if there has been that strategic policy decision taken, because the checks are happening. There's no doubt about that. I've witnessed it myself travelling down to this institution. But I'm just wondering, how have Gardaí been directed that they should tell the difference between Irish and EU citizens who don't have to produce passports or papers and non-EU citizens who may have to produce papers? Thanks, Chair.
There has been no policy change, but we, as an organisation, are very conscious of organised crime and the movement of individuals, either under coercion, as human trafficking, or as part to facilitate organised crime in terms of paid movement of individuals. So we have been concentrating on the movement of individuals as part of our responsibilities of immigration. We do have a unit based in Dundalk which performs occasional mobile patrols on the M1, and they have made detections in respect of immigration type offences there. Now, to date this year, I'm told, or sorry, this would be to August, 128 detections have been made. But that's part of our ongoing responsibilities, and that would be far overshadowed by the detections that have been made at Dublin Port and Dublin Airport, and indeed at Cork Port and Airport as well. So, there is not a concentration of enforcement activity in respect of the common travel area and the border. This is just part of our ongoing efforts in respect of immigration crime.
So I'm wondering, and I don't doubt that you have to monitor that, and I'm not questioning that responsibility on your part, Commissioner, or on the part of the Garda Síochána. What I am questioning is how individual officers define who they're going to check papers from when they board those vehicles. So, for example, and I don't question the professionalism or the friendliness of individual Gardaí who I have witnessed get on board vehicles, but they don't ask me for a passport. They don't ask me for papers. They don't ask people who look like me for papers or passports. And if there are people who don't look like you or I, then they are being asked for papers. Now that leaves the Gardaí not just ethically and morally on very shaky ground, but also legally as well. So I'm wondering in the first instance, because my understanding is that there is no legislation for checks at the land border in terms of the common travel area, which we are all being assured will be maintained and sustained whatever happens around Brexit. There are obviously deep reservations, and I think they stack up. They do firm up, and there is an increase, certainly just from an anecdotal perspective, as a cross-border worker and someone who uses public transport to come to work in these searches. So I would be interested, again, under the legislation, Commissioner, and also how Gardaí are being directed. And to be fair, if they haven't been directed, or if there is a kind of maybe a bit of a clumsy or a haphazard approach to this thus far, that there may be consideration to engage with the Garda officers who are responsible, so that they have a clearer understanding of their legal responsibilities, but also on their, I suppose, societal responsibilities, not to fall into the realms of potentially racial profiling of people who are travelling north and south.
I would say, from my understanding of it and what I've seen of it, that these are our operations directed towards the organised crime involvement in immigration type crime. And as I've said, that's human trafficking or the illegal movement of individuals for, considerable sums of money, and that's what we are addressing. But the specific points that you raise, if you allow me to come back to you, because you do raise a very serious point about who the checks are being applied to, because and I'd want to have a fulsome answer to that. Yeah. I haven't seen the correspondence from the CAJ, and I had information around our immigration efforts as opposed to the specific answer to the CAJ issue. Secondly, then, I think just to put it in context, it would be useful to provide the information which showed you the detections of the Dundalk unit as opposed to what's happening at either the airport or Dublin Airport or Dublin Port, where there is very considerable enforcement activity. And the common travel area, for all its strengths, also creates an opportunity for organised crime as well. And we're obliged then to police that and do our utmost to make sure that we're not subject to criminal gangs moving people illegally through this jurisdiction, and in effect into Northern Ireland to get access into the UK, or the reverse of that happening as well. Yeah. So there are policing issues in this as well that are important too.
I appreciate that fully, Commissioner, and I don't want it to be left thinking that you do need to effectively, where there are the illegal movement of people or people are being trafficked. I want that policed very effectively. I think the concern is, as I've said, is the nature of the checks as they are currently happening and currently implemented, and the concern around under what legislation, if any, those are taking place. So look, you've committed, Commissioner, to meet with the organisations at least once the correspondence reaches you. Yeah. I hope you do. They're far better equipped to deal with this than I am, and certainly it's something I think we could explore at future meetings, Chair. So, Shin Mamage, Gardaí.